Yeah, so the interesting thing about preeclampsia is that it's not one size fits all, and there are also multiple disorders in this cardiovascular realm that Preeclampsia Foundation speaks about, whose shirt I'm wearing today as a proud advocate. And so we have some people finding themselves, unfortunately, in that eclamptic state where they have had the seizure, very emergent, postpartum preeclampsia, HELP syndrome. And so, since there's not this one size fits all, it's any pregnancy, anytime.
Before we dive into our conversation with our guest, I want to take a quick moment to invite all of you, our incredible listeners, to connect with us. Please take a moment to like this episode, subscribe to Wednesday Wellness Debrief, wherever you listen to your podcast, and most importantly, write us a review and share your feedback. Your insights help us grow, reach more people, and continue to create content that truly serves your wellness journey. Now, on to the interview. Welcome back, beautiful listeners, to Wednesday Wellness Debrief, your journey to wellness and maternal health. I'm your host, Brittany, and today we're diving into a crucial topic that touches many lives, yet often isn't discussed with depth and nuance it deserves: preeclampsia. I first want to thank Amari, a fellow FAMU alumni from the Preeclampsia Foundation, for connecting us with our guest today. Our guest, she's a powerhouse in the birth community, a true advocate for Black maternal health, and a beacon of support for families. I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce Porsche Holland-Otunba. Round of applause. Thank you for joining me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I know technology is not on our side today, but we're going to make this interview work. And this is just a conversation between two Black women in the Black maternal health space. So I always start this question with all my guests of, outside of all of our accolades, who is Porsche as the individual?
Yes, yes. Good to be here and share space. Portia is a believer, a follower of Christ. She is a wife. I'm a mom of two, so I'm a girl mom. I'm a sister, a daughter, a lover of people, really a music head and songbird. So there's always a song for everything. A lot of my friends, we have that kind of running joke. So somebody might say biscuits, and we're going to start singing a song. That's our thing. Um, and one of the things that I'm most blessed, appreciative, and proud of is being a graduate of the illustrious Tuskegee University, and I am HBCU to the core, and there is no other way. So
I know that's right. The fellow HBCU alumni in the house. So we're going to dive right in to our first question.
Yes.
And so, as a person, you're a doula and you're an educator, what are some common misconceptions about preeclampsia that you've encountered in your work?
Yeah, so there's definitely a misunderstanding. Some people think that maybe they've done something intentionally to get to the diagnosis. And because there's a lot of nuances and things that are still not known about preeclampsia, though it's been around forever, sometimes that guilt, that shaming when it comes to someone who's pregnant now facing it, that is something that I have seen as people misunderstanding or coming up a bit. Often too, that people may not realize the genetic or family history that comes along with it. So it's not until they have a conversation with someone else in the family and realize something went on that they're like, whoa, that could have been preeclampsia too. Why didn't anybody talk about this? Why didn't my aunt mention this? Grandma couldn't remember her birth, right? Or it was too traumatic and terrible. She didn't explain it to us. So there's sometimes that family dynamic piece. Maybe they're adopted and they don't know, some things about their bloodline. And so reckoning with some of that is also something that comes up a bit.
I think, and I'm transparency, I'm on my pregnancy journey with my husband. And so, yeah, that's a lot of things that we don't really think of as we're going through the pregnancy. That I'm realizing, I have to ask my family, the family history, what my grandmothers have gone through, what my mother has gone through, just to kind of, even my own mother-in-law, just to kind of get an idea of what pregnancy looks like for them.
Sure. And not just the doom and gloom, like, oh, I hated it. It was like the TV and everyone's screaming. But no, did something come up? Did you have a deficiency as well? Was there certain foods that you found better to eat so that your iron, was on point? Like, let's talk about the actual things that's going to help us health wise since we're dealing with a crisis.
I don't think a lot of people realize that. But considering your work, especially because you're in Philadelphia, correct?
Yes.
So you're in Philadelphia, and considering your work as a Black maternal health advocate, what are unique challenges or disparities do Black birthing individuals often face when it comes to the preeclampsia diagnosis or treatment or ongoing care that you may notice?
So I would say we're getting much better as a society with diagnosis. Actually, sometimes to a fault, where we're just labeling everyone. We're seeing medical providers just being hyper vigilant and maybe labeling everyone that is Black presenting, maybe AMA, so advanced maternal age, or geriatric, as some people call it. But they may be Black. AMA, this may be the second, third, or fourth pregnancy for them. They may have had a loss in the past. So we're seeing certain factors come up where they're just like, get on aspirin. Everyone just get on aspirin. This is what we're going to do to try to help. And we're seeing this over. I think they're just a little bit scared, right? Malpractice is real. You really don't want anybody dying on your hands, even if you are racist and biased, right? That's not a good look for your actual practice and for your profession. And so we're seeing this come up a lot more where everyone's going home thinking they're preparing for preeclampsia. And so I think treatment is where the gap is. We still don't have a handle on any type of positive course of treatment. The biggest thing is get the baby out. And so folks are having unnecessary inductions, cesareans, as well, because we don't know what to do and we can't necessarily see the impact that it's going to have on mom and the baby. And so that is the best thing. And that's actually the worst thing, because preeclampsia is still underfunded, under researched. And if we had some better options at play, treatment could be better. So I think universally diagnosis is getting better, between looking at urine, between blood work, between monitoring blood pressure. Granted that you have providers in your area that you can get to. My folks in the rural spaces, in the obstetric deserts, they're struggling all around. So I can't really count them. They're just at a deficit. But in medical meccas like Philly, that's not necessarily the issue that we're seeing coming up. It's more so the postpartum once we come home, because postpartum preeclampsia is real, or I had preeclampsia, so before the seizure, before eclampsia, and I wasn't sent home with what I needed. And now, 3 weeks later, we're emergent, and that's where the deaths are happening, is postpartum. And so it's really the treatment and the observation that's lacking, because lack of staff, lack of funding, and also I don't think we're prioritized. Like birthing folks are not prioritized at all in the medical space.
Mm, yeah. And speaking, yeah, deserts, I spoke with a doula from Bainbridge, Georgia, and how she's working in comparatively, she's like Atlanta, they get all the nice things. She's like, here we just here we just work with what we got. So what you're saying is
That's
not
real. They're
wrong.
oversaturated, just like New York, just like LA, just like Philly. We're oversaturated, and our more rural, smaller towns, their hospitals are closing like 90. You might have one midwife. You might have two people that can teach you anything about breastfeeding or feeding your baby. It's actually really desert like for the whole perinatal journey in many parts of the country.
Mm. And that's really scary. Especially as a Black woman and with all the changes happening, it makes it even more of a nerve-wracking situation, kind of bare knuckling it through the situation.
Absolutely, it can be. So I feel like it puts a different spin on family planning. Like, some people may organically just want to pop up, but I feel like if you want to live in the US, gone are the days of organic. You need to know what in the world is going on, where you're living, who to call on, what insurance you have or don't have. This is not the time to play. So at least have an idea of what's available to you as you get ready for this journey, so that you're not shocked dealing with the stress factor plus all the symptoms that come with regular pregnancy.
Mm. That's a message to me as I'm going through my Own
Listen up.
jerk.
I'm not friend. Listen up.
So I was like, speak to myself. How can we as a society within the healthcare system better integrate the concept of cultural wellness into the prevention and management strategies for preeclampsia?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that needs to happen is really what they already call patient centered care, which does not happen because of so many reasons. There's lack of time, lack of staff, lack of compassion, trying to get this bill paid, take my day off, go home too with my family. I worked this long shift, I had to cover for somebody else. We can't graduate people fast enough. The system is coming down on me, malpractice, right? So not everyone is terrible that wears the white coat, but they are existing in a terrible system. And so, if patient centered care, which really is asking that individual what they value, what makes sense to them, getting to know their language, their culture, their religion, their identities, then you can't base any of your care on those things if that's not already defined and centered. And so when we talk about things like cultural sensitivity, cultural humility, cultural wellness, well, it is individual. And if I have 12 minutes to meet with someone and I'm
Mm.
already overbooked because that's what practices do, because they're banking on somebody maybe canceling or going a little bit further, I'm already at a deficit. There's no way, even if I wanted to, inside of that system that I could center that. And so there's really a dismantling of a system that needs to happen. And also at the same time, a support of traditional methods outside of that. And that's going to be in your midwifery care, which is outside of a hospital system where some of those restraints don't exist, but also cash pay can be a challenge, right? Because in so many instances, health insurance is not coming into play. At the birth center level, yes, it can, but they can also be existing under some of the same medical system constraints as well.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think even that's something I'm acknowledging as I'm doing my research difference between a midwife and an OB and a doula and all these different types of people and how insurance kicks in because insurance does play a huge role in the
yeah.
type of care that I would like to receive for myself, honestly. And it's not easy finding those decisions.
Absolutely. And a lot of these changes and coverages are newer. And so you have people that are younger or maybe first time, and they didn't see the waves of what we as maternal health advocates have had to go through. So one state like Pennsylvania might be more progressive in certain ways, and our neighboring state may not, right? And so there's a big difference between Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, but we all kind of hang out in New York too. But in the midst of that, there are things happening behind the scenes that may or may not apply to your pregnancy, right? So it's getting better. Things are getting to be more covered, but is it always equitable? Is my question. And that's why I sometimes push back on some coverages, particularly around Medicaid, because are the professionals getting paid their wage that they're worthy of, right? And so not just because people got to eat, but I also believe, just in terms of scripture, like the worker is worthy of their wages. So pay people. This isn't a play job. I don't
Mm-mm.
sit with people, and I'm now retired from doulaing, but I would get up in the middle of the night, leave my family, come sit with you for days, educate your partner, bring you a hot meal. Nobody's doing that for $10. Like you can get more working at Chick-fil-A. So let's be real. So though we want some things to be covered, we want them to be accessible for birthers, and we want the people that are considered professionals actually paid.
Yep.
If they're not getting paid, then we all standing in the food stamp line together. What's the difference? What's the point? Right? We're all struggling together, and that's not going to help to move the needle at all in terms of care for families.
Mm-mm. Not at all. Look, people got bills. People got to eat. My light bill doesn't is not giving. The city of Popka is like, oh, that's nice that you help someone. You still need to pay this.
Love you. So even for my people, like I love y'all, but if we can't find OPM, other people's money to help pay for this, it's not going to work, because do you see how much potatoes are, right? Like, do you see how much gas is? It's not going to work, and people shouldn't have to suffer to take care of their community. They shouldn't have to.
I've been taking in as I'm transitioning out of the corporate space into this space of that is, you said a word. Hallelujah.
We're not playing games around here.
So, moving on to a controversial question. For my thesis, for my master's thesis, I'm focusing on social determinants of health, which are like systematic things that impact people through the healthcare system and just in life in general. So, when people talk about personal responsibilities in health, how does that narrative potentially harm or disenfranchise birthing people who experience preeclampsia, especially when systematic inequalities and lack of cultural competent care can contribute to those factors?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about preeclampsia is that it's not one size fits all, and there are also multiple disorders in this cardiovascular realm that Preeclampsia Foundation speaks about, whose shirt I'm wearing today as a proud advocate. And so we have some people finding themselves, unfortunately, in that eclamptic state where they have had the seizure, very emergent, postpartum preeclampsia, HELP syndrome. And so, since there's not this one size fits all, it's any pregnancy, anytime. So, even for me, as a confirmed third generation survivor, my great grandmother probably also had it because she had had pregnancy losses, but there was not as much terminology, and I could probably try to find some medical records. I don't know if I could touch them, but there were just some things missing at that time. And so the fact that this has been in my line for quite some time, but the predictive factors varied in each generation. Someone, it was with their first pregnancy. Me, it was with my second, right? Because of these things that we cannot control, to think that the onus or the responsibility is on the birthing person around how this comes up is definitely harmful. To assume that folks don't want the best for their child, even if they are living in poverty, even if they are living in situation that might be violent and that's the only place they have to live, even if they are dumpster diving, even if they are addicted to substances, right? To assume that people don't want the best for their pregnancy and for their body is false, right? And so, do we know this person? Do we know what's going on? Have we tried to support them and get to help them and educate them and see if some type of change is being made? And so I think that really plays a role in just how we view people and just some of the ignorance that comes about when we think about the birthing community. And because social determinants are real, like being Black in America is literally bad for your health, I already have that stacked against me. Even if I did plan everything out, worked out for 6 months before, took vitamins to prepare my womb, even if I did all those beautiful things, got yoni steams and relaxed and went on vacation and scaled back at work, even if I did all that, nap twice a day, just the fact that I am Black is already, even if I have a master's PhD,
Mm.
the odds are still stacked against me to have a failed experience, a loss, or for me to lose my life. And so that is not anything that has to do with that individual. That is America, the United States of America. Like, that's what that is. And if we can't separate those two things, then we can't have cultural wellness. We can't have cultural sensitivity. We can't have patient centered care because we're doing this labeling. Oh, well, you must be from the hood, so you're ignorant. All you eat is ham hocks. You don't move your body, so that's why this and that's why that. That's not how preeclampsia comes about, my friend. There's vegans with preeclampsia. There are folks that have active lifestyles that have almost lost their lives. We have had people in celebrity, well-known lights that have been diagnosed and lost their lives, and they were active individuals. It's not just that, my friend. So we have to be really careful when it comes to the assumptions that are made about birthing individuals in comparison to the odds already stacked against them, simply if they already identify as Black.
Mm. Yeah. Even I interviewed she was a doctor and she FAMU alumnus. She talked about her experience when she was pregnant with her daughter, where she felt as though that the provider was talking down to her. And she's like, I have a PhD. You're not going to talk down to me. And I already talked to my doctor about this. What's happening?
And OBs are still unfortunately losing their lives. We're hearing about Black women that are OBs. They come into these hospitals and they still. So it's not that simple of a thing. We really can't make assumptions. And I guess it's a challenge and a call for the others because Black folks, we're going to look out for each other and try to help each other, but don't make assumptions about us. And the best thing that folks that are non-Black can do is to challenge their peers in the medical space to take time and to turn away from the nonsense you even learned in school that was very racist and very much so the curriculum filled with implicit bias, to take a deep breath and turn yourself away from that and actually look at that patient's name and get to know them and not bring on the assumptions of maybe your ancestors. So that's really the challenge for some of them, is to do things a little bit differently because you're actually causing harm, even though you said you want to protect bodies in the medical space. You're actually causing harm. So, yeah.
Clock that.
Yes. And I tell them all day to their face and behind their back. I love you though.
It's all love. I was like, we all want to go home to our households and our families the same way.
Is that too much to ask for in 2025? I don't think so. And so, if that means I can be the voice in that regard and kick and scream and yell, I do that. I love doing that. And I'm glad that people invite me into their spaces to do that. And I'll do that with a smile, with a joke, kind of weaved into my presentation or my talk. And there you go, served.
Mm. Oh, so we're down to our last two questions, and we're in our deep questions portion. How, and we talked about it briefly, how does trauma or fear associated with preeclampsia diagnosis impact basically mental and emotional well-being, both in the short and long term? And what can birth workers play in supporting that aspect of healing?
Sure, that's really good. So I can speak for myself personally as a two-time birther and preeclampsia survivor with my second pregnancy, because I had had candid conversations with my mother about her preeclampsia experience with me and her mother with her preeclampsia experience where she lost a baby. There was already some things there, right? My grandmother literally carried my mother, and all the eggs she ever had was there at carrying. So that means my grandmother carried me. And so that is already the stress, the anxiety, the traumas, the intergenerational things, any neglect, abuse, loss. It does get passed on. And so there was already some trauma there because I was a birth worker and I had seen things as a doula, attending births, praying with people before they go to the OR, seeing people try to breathe their babies out and have beautiful experiences, right? And cheering them on and loving them, seeing those extremes and those dynamics. And then, too, thinking about my own body, right? Like, what is happening here? My mom had a beautiful experience with me in a different setting, in a birth center. I'm in a hospital now. This was not the plan whatsoever, right? Everything thrown out the window in terms of what I desired because preeclampsia showed up at the bitter end of the pregnancy. Though we did our due diligence as much as possible to keep it away, it does what it does. It's demonic. It's terrible. Like, it's a beast. And so with that in mind, I ensured that I handpicked my team because I am so much involved in this work. Thankfully, I had an amazing midwife who caught my preeclampsia, made sure I was well in the hospital system. So this is a CNM, a certified nurse midwife. I had the support of an amazing doula and IBCLC. So she came with the lactation experience as well, Sarah Gibson in Philadelphia. She is an amazing human. And because I had her in line, she knew my situation, followed my journey. She also educated my husband, held space for him, literally a part of the family, coming over, being a part of celebrations. That really helped. So I armed myself with a team even before the diagnosis so that in the case anything was needed, they were there, right? So I'm preparing for a VBAC, a vaginal birth after cesarean, had a cesarean with my first child. And so I'm preparing for that. And I want to make sure my team is stacked and laid. And so for me, because there was a reality that this could come up for me, that preeclampsia could be my story, I was all the more diligent to make sure I educated myself, that I tried to stay calm, that I incorporated other methods to help along the way, and that my team was ready. My midwife, my doula, lactation, other birth workers in Philly, I lined them all up, got them together. They knew I was pregnant, right? And so that I could be well received regardless of the outcome. So if there was a NICU stay for my baby, I knew I could call 4 or 5 people to help me, even though we were still kind of in the midst of COVID, right? And
Mhm.
so they would be willing to help. Somebody else would take my older child for me. There would be that support. So birth workers absolutely play a vital role in providing education, connecting them to folks like the Preeclampsia Foundation, where they can get education, helping them to ask questions during their appointment. That's going to be powerful. Making sure that they log into their portals. Baby, you got access to a portal with your health information. You just had them do all this blood work and pen, and you don't even know what it was for. Go in there, Google those acronyms, find out what is going on, see what was going on with your protein. You can send messages in the portal to your provider in between appointments to ask questions. So birth workers also play a vital role in that, helping to bridge that educational gap and then preparing them with questions and with tools for advocacy when they go to appointments. So even before a diagnosis, we can take it a step further to give basic information during our appointments. And then if a diagnosis does come up, whether it's preeclampsia, gestational diabetes, whatever it may be, we're prepared to walk them through.
Mm. I think that's something that's really important to have like someone kind of help you process it, because again, when you're in the medical field, the words and everything is just being thrown at you. So you just need someone like, girl, what did they say? It's like the what is it, that Key and Peele skit, the Obama anger translator. I'm like, what is happening? You're that translator for basically.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a vital role. Like, even if for some reason someone doesn't want, they don't desire, maybe they already have 4 or 5 people that are going to be in their birthing space, and there may not be room for you in the actual room, they can still get education. There are some people that solely do virtual support, solely educate, solely help them after the baby comes. And even after postpartum, especially for my birth workers, do you know those warning signs? We don't sit around with swollen legs and headaches that don't go away with medication, right? They need to have a blood pressure monitor. And so if you can't get access to one, they didn't already hit up their insurance, crowdfund, raise some money, reach out to the Preeclampsia Foundation, have providers get that cuff kit, right? Nobody that is preparing to give birth should be without a blood pressure monitor. And so even after the baby comes, you can play a vital role in helping them to catch something. Oh, my girl is dizzy. Oh, my wife is acting kind of funny right now. Babe is talking slurred and she moving slow. We're going to the ER. Like, why are we having conversations? We're out. And that is something that you can do to help intervene and likely save a life in the midst of crisis.
Hmm. Well, now I'm sad because we've made it to our last question. We talked about intergenerational impact. How might preeclampsia affect family dynamics, future pregnancies, and even the health of the child, both physically and emotionally, especially in the cultural context, where basically maternal health is deeply intertwined with the community well-being?
Yes. So for the birther, I think about, birth trauma, which is very real, and it's whatever that person frames it as. It could be because someone ignored them, touched them a certain way, hurt them, they got cut, whatever the case may be. Pulled out my IV too fast. I pooped on myself and y'all was looking at me. Whatever it is what they say it is, right? And that birthing experience is intense. So a lot can happen there. In terms of the child, I'm thinking about things like NICU stays, which also can impact the rest of the family. We're talking about separation when you're no longer able to be in the hospital, right? You're discharged, and now your baby is either at that hospital or went to a specialized unit. You're traveling back and forth. What if you just had a cesarean? That's not
Mm.
beneficial to your body. You can't rest. You have to feed. So we're talking about some things that they are doing more research around infant mental health, around separation and connections. How much is that staff holding, touching, embracing these babies? What is that doing to the dynamic of a couple or a single parent, right? Because we've had rough recovery or had to be readmitted, right? And now I'm getting medications again. And because maybe this hospital doesn't have a NICU or a maternity unit, they're just trying to keep me alive because of the blood pressure concern, I'm separated from my baby. So we're talking about lasting impacts just around immediately for birth, which then plays into the role of the stories we tell our sisters and our cousins and our aunts. And now, how are our family members fearful, right? And how are they saying, well, no, that ain't for me. I don't, we just going to adopt, or you know what? I'm just going to remain the rich single auntie. But deep down, they wanted to have a child. And so we want reproductive justice to shine forth, and that anybody, whatever their desire is to have children, not have children, and to parent the way that they truly want to, they should be able to. Fear factor of the risk and the generational implications and the trauma shouldn't be the reason why people parent or not parent. But unfortunately, it is for Black people in the US. We're making our decisions based off that. We're saying, go ahead, just take it all out. Give me that hysterectomy. Go ahead and tie them tubes up. No, I'm cool. We're doing that. And so, even for me, as a third generation survivor, that I can confirm, my children are 3 and 7, and I am already preparing them. My 7-year-old knows she wants to be a midwife. I'm already preparing her for what the reality could be around preeclampsia, because it's likely to impact one of them unless something significantly changes in the next 10 to 20 years, right? And I don't have that much hope in our system. I don't have that much hope in this country that I currently reside in. And because of funding, I don't know if our researchers will be supported as much as they should be. They're crying out for support in many regards. We're making some progress, but we're still lacking. And so, to really tie this up in a bow, it could look like even discouraging your own family and friends from having children because of these risk factors, because the fact that there isn't solid treatment, because of the fact that bias still exists on top of that. So you have a life-threatening condition. Your baby could be small, SGA, small for gestational age, nutrients cut off like my child because of the impact on the placenta. And you're like, let's not even risk it. I'm cool if I don't have grandchildren. I'm cool if I don't have great grandchildren. Like, what? Are we talking about family lines being cut off now because of the impact of a disease that should have been had a handle on? Like, shame on the obstetric community. We should have been had a handle on this. If my great grandmother in the 20s, 30s, 40s, what are we doing now when I had my baby in 2022 and people are still getting diagnosed today? And so that is enough to sometimes say, forget it. We'll be blessed with the few family members we have, and potentially we could start to see a decline in people even wanting to have families. And that's unfortunate when folks should have the freedom to build their family line. They really should, and they should be supported in it.
Mm. You putting it into perspective like that, really just even just talking to my own family members of the family experiences of the preterm and the preeclampsia and the gestational diabetes and people ending up in NICU, and just like between the expenses and the trauma, it's just like, girl, it's not even worth it. And especially for us Black people in America, it's kind of like, ugh, it's
Yeah, and that definitely brings up a whole nother concern just around medical tourism. And I've spoken on this on a podcast about that. And yes, it's growing. People are going to Mexico and Panama and Germany and Costa Rica, anywhere you can imagine, anywhere but here. Baby, they going to Mexico. And y'all got a problem with folks coming from Mexico over here? They're going to Mexico to have their babies. So that's something, it should tell you something. The
yeah.
US ain't all it's cracked up to be. Big ups to everybody that want to try to come and have a good life and all this, but the rest of us is trying to leave. And so I'm not mad at that because on a global scale, we can look at our outcomes and the US is trending terrible. So
Turning down.
put me on a plane and drop me off in a remote village. I'm going to be taken care of well by all the aunties there, all the aunties. And I'm going to be eating from the land that's not polluted. The food is going to be organic. They're going to wrap me and bind me and bathe me and herb me and rub me down and hold my baby for 3 months and help me breastfeed and everything. And so you will get that care there that you would have to pay thousands upon thousands for and possibly lose your job in the process to get that here. But, y'all said this is such a great place, so I guess.
Yeah, I was telling you my vacation we went to Europe. I was just like, wow, they do it so much differently over here. My goodness, the
Yeah.
food is different. The air is with the walk everywhere. This is and then I came back that Saturday. I was just like, oh, I have to drive, I have to do all this stuff. I was talking to my husband. I was just like, I don't want to be like that negative person. Be that like,
It's
like
different.
even it's different. It's just like even and again, racism is everywhere, but it's a little bit different in other countries, and I'm taking note of that. And I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong because you're not wrong.
Right. It's literally those cultural things, where we live is a business. This nation is a business. It's not for the betterment of families. It has never been. It's not to center women. It never has been. It's not to center birth and children. It's never been. Our children get some of the worst treatment that I've ever seen. Look at our schools. Look at the food they serve them in these schools. You don't care about the future, right? It's very evident. And so if people want to do pieces of their life in other places, I don't blame them. They want to live because every time we look on social media, there's another hashtag, not because of gun violence, not because of some of these other irate things that we think is trending. It's a lot of times I was just trying to give birth to my baby. I was just trying to be a parent. I was just trying to live. Right. And so that is unfortunate. And it definitely opens up the conversation for the traumas and the PTSD and the lived experience of others that impacts Black people. And so our birth workers, our counselors, our therapists, our social workers, we could be lending ear and being a lot more sensitive to people as they are preconception, infertility, kind of working through those things while they have had losses and while they are going through their pregnancy journey. We could be being a lot more sensitive because these factors are impacting them heavily and the stress is real.
Ms. Portia, this conversation has been nothing short of profound, and your wisdom, advocacy, and dedication to birth work and Black maternal health is very inspiring. I want to give you your flowers and your round of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. For the listeners who want to follow you on social, connect with you, I'm going to put it in the description as long as I don't remove it. Description down here. Where can the people contact you and find you?
Sure, absolutely. So my firm is Reclaim Black Motherhood. We're based in Philly, but we're serving everywhere, soon to be globally. And so you can connect with us, reclaimblackmotherhood.com, Facebook, IG, just type it into Google. We are there, LinkedIn as well for my professionals. Please feel free to connect with me. There are freebies, downloads, tools if you're thinking about becoming a doula, if you want to train in perinatal mental health. If you're interested in preeclampsia work, you're a survivor like me as well, glad to speak to you. So yeah, DM me, reach out, glad to connect.
And thank you again for your time and consideration. You're my first interview back from vacation, and I could not have been happier that you were my first interview back from vacation.
Listen, I aim to please, friends.
Yes.
Good conversation.
And to our amazing listeners, thank you for joining us today on this journey. If you found this conversation impactful and it resonated with you, please take a moment to show your support by liking the episode, subscribe to Wednesday Wellness Debrief on your favorite platforms, and most importantly, share your feedback and write your review. And again, take care of yourself, nurture your spirit, remember the power of community. Bye, everybody.